Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Fantasy Lab on Player Profiler Now. I am your host, Aaron St. Denis. Follow me everywhere at FFMadScientist. Joined today by Andrew Cooper. What's up, Coop? How's it going?
It's going, man. Once you said we were talking Patriots, I was in. And then you hamstrung in the Jets, and I was like, fine. So
Yeah,
here we are. We're doing a little Patriots, my team. And I'm willing to take off my homer cap and be unbiased about the Jets, too, for the sake of fantasy football. So I'm here for all of it.
it's going to be a wonderful show. I'm not big on either team. I told you before, I am sick as a dog. And if you want to know how sick I am and how much I'm struggling to get through this, halfway through my intro, I call you Coop so much, I just sit there and take a second or see if I remembered your first name. I was like, that's the right first name, right?
Not important, dude. Not important.
I always call you Coop. I've never called you anything besides Coop. And I'm like, I
And
can
this,
say this, Andrew.
yeah, this week I'm on. I feel like I'm on. I'm working for Player Profiler this week on these
Yeah,
little
it's like
days.
third
So
appearance, eh?
yeah. I mean, dude, when you got the thing is, you guys got a good crew over there. So when people say you want to talk football, I always say yeah. So let's talk some football. Let's go. Let's rock.
We do. So if you're doing anything over there at the Player Profiler site, Fast Draft app, as you can see on screen, $50 deposit match if you use code MADScientist. Same applies to the Dynasty Deluxe and some of the other things we have going on over on the website. Let's get right into it. This should be exciting. We're not going to start with your team. I'm sorry.
Fine.
We are going to start with the Jets. I got my little notes here. Some of the key additions this offseason, rookies, they brought in wide receiver Arian Smith, tight end Mason Taylor. They added receiver Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, QB Justin Fields, and tight end Stone Smart. We will start at the QB position here. We've got Justin Fields, as I mentioned before, and Tyrod Taylor is listed as their second quarterback. Obviously, we're not hoping that Tyrod Taylor makes an appearance at all. What are you thinking here, Justin Fields? Can he? I don't think anyone sees him have. What was he, QB4 a couple years ago? Think he can creep in back end QB1 maybe?
Yeah, here's the thing: is that I went back and I looked at essentially every quarterback that's played every game, so at least 16 games, and run 90 times in a season. It's very rare for those guys not to be QB1s. I mean, like one of the few exemptions was 2014 Colin Kaepernick. Like that's how you have to go far back. You have to go to find guys that are willing to run a lot and hold on to the job. So Justin Fields is not a matter of whether he's willing to run. We know he's willing to run. It's whether he can hold on to the job. If he can, he has upside. And that's why for me, I don't mind taking him in best ball. And if I end up drafting a quote unquote like boring quarterback from like say you're in a redraft league and you wait and you take like the QB 10 or 11 off the board. Like let's say your quarterback is Jared Goff, your starting quarterback. I have no
Yeah.
problem circling back and using a bench spot on Fields just to see. Because you got a safe guy, you throw an upside guy on the bench. If he hits, he hits. If he doesn't, you just drop him like most of the guys on your bench anyway. So Fields is actually, to me, a guy that's fairly easy to play around in fantasy. And most people in Dynasty, you were holding him, right? You were holding him, or you traded him away, or you dropped him, or whatever. But if you were
Yeah.
holding him, you're not going to drop him now. So you're not going to trade him now if you held him this whole time. So it's kind of a wait and see. I think Fields is not that hard of a guy to navigate around in fantasy.
I got him on waivers at one point. I don't remember if it was last season or this offseason, but I'm looking at my rankings now, and I know it's pretty early, so they're not finalized. I have him as QB 14, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. But I mean, okay, so I haven't made the update today. I have Dak one spot below him. Dak is going to be significantly higher than him now. So I
Right.
probably have him as a mid to low end QB2. So, like you said, it's kind of a safe guy to pair with a good guy to pair with a safer QB1.
Exactly. Yep. Because you that gives you exposure to upside you might not have if you draft like a Brock Purdy or a Jared Goff just to see. You know what I mean? It's like you have your safe guy, you can start them all year. And if they both hit, now you can potentially trade somebody. So I don't mind Fields. I think where you have him 14, 15, that's fine. He goes QB 18. Is like in that range, once like guys like Bo Nix and Kyler Murray and Drake May go, he's kind of your last shot at mobile upside. There's not too many guys after that that are really willing to tuck it and run the way he is.
That's kind of who I have him exactly after. I'm going to move Dak up, but the group he's in right now is Purdy, him, Caleb, and Jordan Love. And
Right.
I guess I feel comfortable enough with that.
For sure.
All right, moving on to a running back room that once looked very promising for Brees Hall. They've also got Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. This has got to be smoke and not fire, right? They can't really be thinking of making this a three-headed backfield.
No, and Brees Hall is just too talented. I think that as long as, and again, you to some degree, every time with the running back, you're also betting on the quarterback. Like you're betting on them to be able to move the football. Running is the luxury of the winning team. Really good running backs can be good on bad teams, but as we saw with Saquon Barkley, when you take a really good running back and put him on a good or great team, he becomes truly great. Brees Hall, if you go and sort like every running back in the league right now based on yards from scrimmage, right? Average yards from scrimmage per game for their career, there's only four guys that average over 100 yards. Kamara, Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. But Brees Hall is in that next group, averaging over 90 yards with like Jameer Gibbs and even like Nick Chubb's in there, Derrick Henry's in there. Like Brees Hall, like he's been able to find his way to production even in bad situations. So he's a guy I'm definitely willing to draft. Now, this year, I really actually do like his price because I think he's just a really talented player, and it can't, in my opinion, be as dysfunctional as it was. So I actually am interested in Brees Hall. Braylon Allen is a guy I might take in like the last few rounds of a best ball draft, or if you're in deep enough formats to handcuff. But unless I have like a ton of bench spots or it's dynasty, I really don't like handcuffing. And I'm not going to draft Braylon Allen hoping Brees Hall gets hurt because I'm not sure if Braylon Allen has huge upside if Brees Hall gets hurt.
You answered pretty much all the questions I was going to ask. I was going to say, are you buying the dip then at RB13? And obviously you are. And then I was going to next ask, I'm a fan of buying other people's handcuffs instead of my own.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
So,
Especially in best ball, it almost
yeah.
it never works in best ball to buy
No.
your own handcuff, right? And a lot of times,
Yeah.
the ones you want, it's way too expensive. Like you're not going to draft Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. You know what I mean? So I'm fully with you. And again, in best ball, like underdog, best ball mania, we're talking 18 rounds. There's room to draft Braylon Allen there. I'm not sure if you're going to get to Isaiah Davis, but Braylon Allen he's drafted in most of the drafts I've seen.
I will trust you on that. Best ball is my one knowledge deficiency. I'm in Ontario. 90% of the apps I can't use Underdog. I can't use anything like that here. So
Ontario.
Every once in a while, I'll cross the border to Detroit while I'm at a game, and I'll plug in a lineup there. But now, anytime they geolocate where I am, it says you can't play this contest. So
yeah, can you play if someone just sets one up on Sleeper? I know it's not as fun as like the big $1 million tournaments, but
on Sleeper I can. It's just the other apps it's big pain in the ass.
Yeah, true.
Wide receiving room that appears crowded, but isn't really crowded with talent. It's crowded with bodies. We got Garrett Wilson, who's the number one, obviously. Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Malachi Corley, Arian Smith, the rookie. I'm looking at this, and this team seems like I really want two players, like maybe Justin Fields as a QB2. This seems like a very, very consolidated, all those years where we had Dak, Zeke, and Cooper, or Dak, Zeke, and Lamb. This seems like it's going to three people in this lineup, and that's it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Garrett Wilson, we of course still like just because he's the top dog. This team feels like one where eventually Keenan Allen says, okay, the Bears don't want me, the Chargers don't want me. Why don't I get an apartment in New York City? That would be fun for a year. So I'm wondering if maybe Keenan Allen could be a landing spot for him. He's still floating around out there, but I mean, even in best ball, I have no interest in taking stabs on any of these wide receivers, man, besides Garrett Wilson. I have not even thought about grabbing Josh Reynolds. Alan Lazard, I'm honestly shocked that he's still on the team right now. Like I thought that he would be released. They can save a good chunk of change by releasing him. Maybe he's waiting. Maybe they're waiting to see where Aaron Rodgers goes and he ends up traded. But like, I don't see why they would hold on to that guy.
I don't even know if I have a whole lot of shares of Garrett Wilson so far. He always seems to go in a range where I prefer the other options.
For sure. No, that's the same. I feel the same way. It's like he's going to get the targets. You don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know if we're going to get a pivot to Tyrod Taylor at some point. It is kind of a tough spot, but at the same time, I mean, I don't see a world where he gets less than 125 targets because where are they going to go?
Tight ends, we got the rookie Mason Taylor. We also have a couple other people on there. Stone Smart, Jeremy Ruckert. As you can see, Stone Smart, all I have is his forehead in the graphic. It always seems to cut my bottom guy off.
He's got a big forehead though, so I'm not
Yes.
surprised it snuck in there. Yeah.
What is just streaming options, desperation, late options, maybe a Mason Taylor in a later round of a Scott Fishbowl, somewhere out of desperation. I don't really see any interest in anyone outside of the big three in this offense, if you include Justin Fields as the big three.
So I actually don't hate it because when we look for upside from the later rounds, what we're looking for is a path to being a top 2 target on the team. Basically, the best thing you can have is being a top 2 target, and you don't even have to be the top target. The best tight end season of all time was Rob Gronkowski in a year that Wes Welker got 173 targets. You really just have to be one of the top 2 to have top 5 upside. If you don't have that, then highly consolidated among the top few guys, like we see with San Francisco, they use a blocking tight end and they use a fullback, or Miami, same scheme, right? Alec Ingold is the fullback, and then you've got Julian Hale and all these blocking tight ends. Like you can get high consolidation. Mason Taylor here, when I look at these wide receivers, I think there is a path for him to be a top 2 target on the team, but there is a caveat. Mason Taylor, unfortunately, in college, had a profile that is very high risk, high reward. The risk here is that LSU used him to block in line on 70% of his snaps, and they used him to block on 16% of the pass plays. Now, that could be scheme related. We know LSU always has really good wide receivers, but the problem you run into is that in college, these guys are supposed to be super mega stars. And the NFL is the permanent all-star game of college. So for a team to sit there and say, hey, we're going to pass it here, you're going to stay in and block, that's usually a very bad sign. And people tell me, oh, he got picked in the second round. He has to be a pass catcher, right? Drew Sample for the Bengals got picked in the second round for his blocking ability. So there is a world where Mason Taylor is a top 2 target on the team. There's also a world where they picked him to be a blocking tight end, and the pass catching tight end on the team ends up being Jeremy Ruckert or Stone Smart or Zach Kuntz or somebody else. So it's something to keep in mind. There is upside there though, because of the real lack of other guys on the team that deserve 100 targets.
Well, I was going to close this one out with sleeper, breakout, and bust with Mason Taylor as my sleeper. You may have talked me out of it, but I don't really think there's any other option here, and it doesn't take much.
We still get the high, you know what? We still get the high reward side though. The high reward side, like if this guy went to a team, like let's say this guy went to the Broncos, where they already have a pass catching tight end in Evan Ingram, and they already have Cortland Sutton and these others. Or let's say he went to a team that has like the Bengals that already has 2 wide receivers that are locked in. They're guaranteed to get 100 targets. We wouldn't be interested at all. But the upside here is that the lack of other pass catchers. So he is my sleeper from this team. I think sleeper would be Mason. The guy I like best is Breece Hall. And unfortunately, if I had to pick a bust, it might be Garrett Wilson, because I just don't know if I trust Justin Fields to really deliver the football at high level.
I had the same sleeper. I have the same bust. I don't really know. I know you changed the wording on the breakout for Breece, because I don't think they're really.
You can't say.
What am I going to say? Breece Hall's my breakout? No. Justin Fields has already had a QB4 season.
Right.
I guess he could re-break out, but.
Yeah, so I guess the breakout. I mean, dude, you can't. Obviously, Josh Reynolds.
Malachi Corley?
Yeah, maybe Braylon Allen. I mean, maybe Braylon Allen's probably the most interesting guy. Malachi Corley, he was a 3rd-round pick, but I just feel like in a situation where they had a lot of opportunity to give him a shot, they didn't really. I mean, yeah, maybe. Actually, Malachi Corley probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, bro.
I don't mind
Tough
that
team.
one.
Tough team.
Trying to look up the that's what I'm saying. Trying to look up the stats here last year.
The problem was they had Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. So the wide receiver 3 was never going to come close to anywhere near a full snap share.
Yeah, Braylon Allen 3.6 yards per carry. Yeah, I think I'd still feel better calling the potential breakout Malachi Corley, and I don't feel great about that. So let's move on to the Patriots here.
Let's go.
Yeah, we've got some offseason additions. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we break into the Patriots, I got so excited for you because I knew you're waiting for it. Let's hear a word from the Podfather on this year's rookie guide.
Theo Greminger is gone. We wish him all the best, but he did leave for us a great gift, the 2025 Player Profiler Rookie Guide. That's right. It is here. It is beautiful. It will help you dominate your rookie drafts this year. It features 60-plus player breakdowns, written primarily by Theo Greminger himself, as well as our proprietary NFL draft grades and strategy and tactics for dominating your rookie draft this year. We have a composite rankings with Theo's rankings, Cody, John Lobb, Jagger May, and Jax Falcone. It's right there on Player Profiler. It's $20. You won't find a better draft kit. You certainly won't find a better draft kit value. So go get it on playerprofiler.com.
I don't know how many times I've seen Podfather on screen where I completely don't hear what he's saying because I'm focused on the cool background. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on back there. It's really cool. So back to the Patriots and their additions here. We got rookie Kyle Williams in the draft. Travion Henderson, running back, also added in the draft. Free agents, we got Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, Joshua Dobbs, not that it really matters, at quarterback, and Mac Hollins, wide receiver. Guess we'll start here. This is another one where you really hope the quarterback situation or the backup doesn't matter. Drake May, he is currently going off the board as QB 15. I have him higher than that. As I said, I had him in the group above Justin Fields. I have him at 12. What do you think here of the QB room, mainly Drake May?
Yeah, I mean, when I go through and I usually use early best ball to gauge ADP. It's as similar as you're going to get. I love taking Drake May where he goes. Once Bo Nix and Kyler Murray go, then I'm looking at May and Fields, just because, again, mobile upside is key. Any league, especially ones that have 4-point passing, this is a guy that's shown a willingness to run. I mean, I think he looks pretty good passing the football as well, especially considering the weapons or lack thereof he had last year.
Sorry to interrupt. Who did you say drafted in front of him? Nix, you said, and
Bo Nix and Kyler Murray, right? So it was Bo Nix and Kyler Murray, and then you have a group that's like Jared Goff and Brock Purdy that I'm not really super fired up about.
Right? I only ask because I find he's been going before. Like, I have a lot of Nix because I find May's been going earlier than any of them.
Really? Yeah. So on Underdog, at least, Nix and Kyler Murray go like QB 8 and 9. It's like Baker goes as like the last like passer that was like top 10 and everything last year, and then it goes Bo and Kyler, and then May and Fields go a little bit later. So
I wonder if that's a best ball thing, because like mine were on Sleeper and they were Dynasty startups. So
in Dynasty for sure, you're gonna see because like Dynasty, he's definitely gonna go ahead of Fields. He's gonna go ahead of Kyler. Maybe not.
No, I meant Nix more specifically.
Yeah. In Dynasty, if we're talking Dynasty, then I'm fired up on May. People are fired up. Like, it's just the lack of current weapons. But obviously, you look at Josh Allen when he came into the league. Who was he throwing to? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't even get him Cole Beasley until the next year. Like, Stephon Diggs came around. Like, his first year there, man, he was throwing to nobody. Like, that's kind of the way it goes with these rookies a lot of times when you do blow it up. You know, so now they're starting to get him weapons, but it's not even there yet. So in Dynasty, he's definitely going to go a lot higher than he goes in redraft and best ball, but it's a player I like a lot. We believe that he's the guy. Seems like he's got a good attitude, but you never know, because, I mean, and people hate when I bring this up, but Mac Jones, everyone was very hopeful about him. He had the second highest completion percentage of a rookie all time behind only Dak Prescott, and people really liked him, and it didn't pan out for him. So you can never sit here and say, like, this guy's locked in, he's super special, and that's it. I mean, even CJ Stroud took a step back in his second year. So
absolutely,
you gotta, it is still a risk reward play, but the fact that he has the mobility means the reward is worth that much more.
That's kind of a conversation I've been having, and I get Jaden Daniels has the rushing floor, but he's going off the board in a lot of leagues I've seen as QB2, QB3. I always hate drafting the guys who come off a huge rookie year because they're very unlikely to have just as good as a sophomore season. Even the ones who turn out good, they take a step back. They threw more picks. The NFL defenses adapt to them, and they get better again. But they very rarely match their rookie season when they've gone off like that.
Right, because everybody's got tape on you. The teams in your division play you twice, and you'd be surprised how fine a tooth comb they go over. Like, your own guys got to be on top of that, because teams will, if you have, if a certain type of play, you have your left foot back a little bit when you roll out to your left, and you're doing that consistently, they'll find it, right? And they'll know what you're doing. They'll know your cadences. So, I mean, there's $1 billion industry, so teams are going to be on that stuff. I do like Jaden Daniels still. I like
me too.
They made some additions. They, worked, added some offensive line in the first round of the draft, which is nice. But you're right. There is risk there compared to guys that consistently do it year in and year out.
I just don't love him at cost. I think he's going to be great, and he still is. But like this time last year, I remember my Scott Fishbowl draft. I think the picks 3 and 4 or 3 and 5 or something like that were C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. That was last year, right? Or the year before?
They're early.
Well, now Richardson might be a backup to Daniel Jones, and C.J. Stroud is still good, but he's not a first-round pick, even in Superflex.
Right. And now the flip side argument for going with the younger mobile guys, especially, is that it is like the Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson of the world. They are entering kind of rare territory in terms of running the football. So with guys age 28 or older, there's only been 3 guys to run the ball over 100 times. Josh Allen just joined the group last year running 102 times. The only other two are Michael Vick and Cam Newton.
Damn, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. I should have do the trivia on you. But Lamar Jackson turns 28 this year. These guys, though, I hate to use a cliche. They might just be built different and willing to just keep running at these ages, but it does wear on you a little bit. We've seen guys like Russell Wilson continue to be top 5 quarterbacks while transitioning into running less and throwing more. You got to throw 40 touchdown passes, 35 at least or so to do it. But I guess that is an argument to go with the younger guys, but I'm still going with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen over Jaden Daniels. I have him QB3, him and Jalen Hurts in their own tier. And then, I love the mobile guys, so I'm always willing to take a stab on Drake May.
I wrote an article on that. I think it was maybe 3 years ago. And I used Russ actually as my example of, I treated a lot of the mobile quarterbacks like running backs. When their legs go, they have to either transition like Russ does into more of a statue pocket passer, or they're out, they're done.
Right.
And that's why, like you said, they may just be built differently, but if they can't, I'm more worried. I think Allen, is going to be able to adapt his game. I'm worried Lamar can just turn into a less mobile, not a run first quarterback. So he scares me a little more in Dynasty.
Right. Like Cam Newton is the prime example of a guy who just didn't change his game, and he was able to continue to run. Like he had a season at 31 for the Patriots where he ran the ball over 100 times and he scored 13 touchdowns. But by that time his shoulder was shot, because you can't just do that at this level and expect to still be able to do the fine motor skill movements that quarterback requires.
All right, on to the running backs. There are a couple of guys here, 2 that I really liked in the past. I really liked Ramondre Stevenson as a rusher, really liked Antonio Gibson as a pass-catching back. The problem is they drafted Trey Henderson, who I think is a better rusher than both of them and a better pass catcher than both of them. So I don't necessarily love this for anyone besides Trey. He could be one of the top 3, 5 maybe running backs in receptions this year, I think. I'm really looking to target him wherever I can get him. What do you think about the running back trio here?
Right. And any offensive coordinator or coach, or, Elliott Wolf, the GM, the de facto GM, they always say the same thing. Whenever people ask, is this player just a pass catching back? They always say, we view him as a 3-down back. No one ever just says, we're just going to throw him the ball, because you're giving stuff away. I do wonder if early on in his career, Henderson might just operate more on the passing downs, just because they have 2 guys. And Josh McDaniels has a history of doing that. The Patriots for 20 years never had one guy get both 250 carries and 35 plus receptions. The first guy to really break through that was Ramondre Stevenson, like not Deion Lewis. None of these guys. Corey Dillon didn't do it, going all the way back to, the early 2000s. They've always done like a Corey Dillon and a Kevin Falk, a Stephen Ridley and a Danny Woodhead, James White and LeGarrette Blount. Like they've always kind of split it up that way. And that's how McDaniels did it. You look at Stevenson, he's 227 pounds. Antonio Gibson is actually quietly, like he doesn't play like it, but he also is like 220, 6 foot 220, right? In your mind, if I had asked you, like in my mind, I picture this guy being like 180 pounds. He's also a bigger guy. So I don't know. Henderson might just be so good that he overtakes everybody. Stevenson has fumbling issues. So, that's a good way to find yourself on the bench anyway. But I don't see why they wouldn't use both players. It doesn't make sense. They gave Stevenson an extension. It doesn't make sense to just use one guy. So I think they're going to probably use both.
With Gibson, anytime I've rostered him, he's always fumbling and he's always injured. So yeah, I would have assumed he was smaller. So
Right.
basically, it sounds like you're saying there's still a chance here for Ramondre and RIP Gibson. What do you think this is? You carries split and reception split. Do you have a percentage you think between Stevenson and Trey here? You could
I
yes?
wouldn't be surprised to see it 60-40 both ways, where Stevenson gets like 60% of the carries, Henderson gets like 60% of the receptions. And the problem that you run into with drafting Stevenson is that when you have splits like this, the early down back can have upside, but the team needs to be really good. Like the times we've seen it are like, for instance, LeGarrette Blount finished as like RB7 one year. Well, he only caught 7 passes, but he scored 18 touchdowns because it was Tom Brady's team, and they usually fall backwards into him. Jamal Williams on the Lions, and also David Montgomery on the Lions. But Jamal Williams on the Lions scored 18 touchdowns while not catching a ton of passes because they were good. Raheem Mostert, I mean, the offense was good enough to make it happen. I don't think the Patriots are good enough. Like, even though a lot of books have their over under at 8.5 wins, like I don't think they're good enough to have a guy that's just an early down back scoring double digit touchdowns while they have a pass down back. So if I'm drafting anyone, I'm with you. I'm drafting Henderson in any sort of PPR just because I think this team's going to be playing from behind a good amount.
If this is even a 50-50 split, I mean, Ramondre at RB34 seems like a good deal. But what I worry about is that say it's a 50-50 split at the end of the year. I think it could be a 70-30 split early on. And when you get into the thick of it, fantasy playoffs, Ramondre's the 30% at that point and Trey's taken over. And that is not, I'd much rather have the rookie who starts slow and could potentially finish fast or finish solid than the inverse where I'm losing, the production right when I need it.
Right. But it's the thing is with consistency wise, we've seen studies by like Nathan Yankee over at Pro Football Focus that kind of show that whoever gets that starting gig, whoever is the guy going out there on first down, whoever's going out there on goal line, like that guy offers more consistency. And on most teams, like the year before last, 30 of 32 teams, whoever got the most snaps, whoever started the game got the most carries. So like you have to picture a world where Travion Henderson is so good that say they throw a deep ball in the end zone and it's a pass interference, that they send the guy who's 20 pounds lighter out there to punch that in over Stevenson just because Henderson has just surpassed him in a way that he's irrelevant. And it's possible, but usually that happens if it's like, they with like first round running backs or guys that like really, I know knowing these guys, the old school coach and Josh McDaniels who's in the split backfield, I just find it hard to believe that like they'll just say, okay, this guy is a starter for every phase of the game now over Stevenson. It's possible. It's possible.
Wide receivers, not nearly as interesting. We've got Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, and Jalen Polk. I think so far I've got 2 shares of these guys. I've got some Kyle Williams. He was my sleeper in the rookie drafts. And I have a few Steph Diggs shares, not necessarily because I think he has anything left in the tank, but because he's been so cheap that it's like, screw it. What do I have to lose? What do you think of this wide receiving core here? It's not pretty.
No, it's not pretty. Actually, so a lot of people don't like it. I love the move of bringing in Stephon Diggs because you, as a coaching staff, have a guy who's a veteran, who's had monster seasons in this league, who's at least been to a bunch of very meaningful playoff games, and you can stand him up there in front of all these very young guys and say, "This is now the standard, right?" And again, this team, they have multiple tight ends with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. They have a fullback. They can stand him up there and say, if there's a whole group of you young guys, this guy's going to be on the field. If you want to be on the field, you either got to be better than this guy or you got to be the second best player behind this guy, because we're probably only going to have 2 of you guys out here for a full-time snap share. If anyone's good enough to do that, when you bring in a guy like that, that really sets the standard. There's no more. Last year they had no leader. It was just everyone getting a shot and no one doing anything. Now they know what the standard is. You got to be as good, if not better, than Stephon Diggs. And you know what? The guy, even though he got hurt last year, he was on pace to catch 100 passes. not get 100 targets. He was on pace to catch 99 rounded up passes last year. So if they think he's healthy, they think he's going to be out there. He could be in line to catch a bunch of balls. And now everybody else is on notice that this isn't a team that's going to be rolling out 3 wide receiver sets every snap like the Rams. That's just not what they're going to do. So if you want a job, there's one job for you. So, and I'm betting on Kyle Williams. I'm with you. This regime drafted him. Jalen Polk was a second-round pick last year, but the Patriots actually signed. They brought in Tyler Hughes, the wide receiver coach from Washington, he became the Patriots wide receiver coach. They drafted his guy, Jalen Polk, from Washington, and then they've already fired Tyler Hughes. I think that's bad news for Jalen Polk. Demario Douglas is just kind of a gadget guy. Mac Hollins is a very weird dude that really only stretches the field. Doesn't wear very interesting character. I love that doesn't wear shoes thing and how he shows up wearing the cool outfits, but he's not going to just break out in a big way. If Mac Hollins is the wide receiver 2, that means this team doesn't have a wide receiver 2 I'm interested in. So I'm with you. It's Kyle Williams and Stephon Diggs from the wide receivers that you should take shots on.
We'll close out the team with the tight ends. They've got Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. I have actually drafted Hunter Henry in a few of my leagues as my tight end 2 or tight end 3 because he's going like he finished in the league I'm at, half PPR tight end premium. He finished as tight end 11 last year. It's not sexy, but he was going in a range where I get the profile for like a Ben Sinnott, Jatavian Sanders and the youth, but I'm only using him like he's my backup with Sam Laporta, my backup with McBride, Bowers. I'm using him as a bye-week replacement, so I don't care if he's not young and sexy. I'll take a guy if I can put him in and he'll get me 10 to 15 points on a bye week. I'll take it for free.
Right, and that like last year, I had a team that went all the way. So Best Ball Mania on Underdog, for those of you who might live in Canada and not be able to play, is a big tournament. I'm sure you've heard of it. With 600,000 people in it. And last year, I finished 226th. So the top 3% of the top 1%. And my 2 tight ends were Pat Frymuth and Hunter Henry.
Not sexy.
Not sexy, but they finished tight end 9 and, as you said, tight end 11, right? And It's like that. If you can just piece it together that way, and I got them super cheap in the draft, which allowed me to draft a lot of other guys at a high level. So this is my advice to people out there. There's a lot of people on Twitter that love being negative about certain players, and I get it. I do it too sometimes. But what you should do is look for where you can be positive, right? So if you're out here and you're saying Stephon Diggs is washed, he stinks, he's going to get hurt, he's not going to do anything, instead of tweeting Stephon Diggs sucks, he's washed, look at the depth chart and figure out where you think the targets are going to go, and then turn that into a tweet and say, hey, you know what? I think Hunter Henry is actually the best pass catcher on this team right now. I think Hunter Henry actually I know for a fact Hunter Henry actually led this team in targets last year, right? So that's what you do. You come out and say it that way. People like you a little more when you do it like that. So for people out there listening to this and they're like, Kyle Williams, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, forget those guys. Again, ball's got to go somewhere. What if Drake May takes a step forward? What if Hunter Henry does end up, soaking up a lot of targets, being a red zone target? And what if this new coaching staff with Josh McDaniels just draws up a better set of plays than the previous one? So Hunter Henry, definitely interesting. And Austin Hooper is the reason that you're not going to have 3 wide receivers on the field a lot, because he's a good enough blocker, good enough inline tight end. Plus they'll use a fullback a little bit that they're going to use enough 2 tight end sets that you really these guys got to know that if you're not one of the top 2 wide receivers on this team, your career could end up on a downward trajectory.
All right, let's hear another quick word from the Podfather before we close it out with a sleeper, breakout, and bust for the Patriots.
Hey, what if I told you there was a Dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of 2 players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players? Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go.
All right, I think you went first last time. I'm trying to find, I think my sleeper. Can Steph Diggs be a sleeper 15 years into his career or whatever? Because he's wide receiver 44.
At wide receiver 44, I think we can allow that. I think we can allow that.
Kyle Williams has my breakout. My bust, I feel like it's going to be one of the two running backs. I just can't say which.
I'll say it for you.
Go for it.
I think that because I think people have to be realistic, as I was saying on the show, that with a guy like Josh McDaniels, who has a history of using a split backfield, you have two very different backs, one much bigger, the other one's a pass catcher. I think that the folks drafting Travion Henderson, expecting him to be the every down back, might end up with a split back on a team that's just okay. So I do worry that Henderson could bust here a little bit.
But that goes back to your point, too, with the wide receivers. How many times do we do this where we see the young, high upside running back or wide receiver comes in as a rookie? And sure, eventually he takes over. But how many cases? We even seen it with Bijan. He didn't walk in and just become 90%. Right. He split with Tyler Algier, who everyone thought, oh, he's a nobody. He's a day three. So what are the odds they have an established back that they just re-upped on his contract? And they're just going to say, nah, Ramondre, go sit on the bench. This rookie's got it.
Exactly. And again, it's like Melvin Gordon with Danny Woodhead scored 0 touchdowns as a rookie. CeeDee Lamb was just barely wide receiver 24 as a rookie. Jackson Smith-Njigba didn't break out. Like, people got to temper their expectations. So I don't think he's a bust for Dynasty. Draft him as early as you want in Dynasty, but just know that sometimes they split these guys up early on. My sleeper, I'll go with Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry has an opportunity to, definitely at tight end 17, be a top 10 tight end. And, we'll see what happens with this offense. For breakout, you know what? Since you hit on Diggs, I'll go Kyle Williams. I think Kyle Williams is a well-rounded player. They're looking for a guy that can play in the slot, can play flanker, can move around the formation and be an every down player the way guys like Julian Edelman and Wes Welker were. I mean, people don't realize that Julian Edelman played a ton out wide. He didn't just play in the slot, and I think Kyle Williams can be that kind of guy. I think when you bring in a guy like Josh McDaniels, when you're Bob Kraft remembering the good old days, you say, hey, how do we do that again? Okay, well, let's get those type of weapons again. You bring in Travion Henderson to be James White. You bring in Kyle Williams to be Julian Edelman. And then you hope Hunter Henry can be even a fraction of what Gronk was.
All right, let's close it out pretty quickly here, mainly because I spilt my drink all over and I'm hoping I don't short circuit anything. If my feed cuts out, you'll know why. But so as we close it out here, why don't you tell us who you are, what you do, where we can find you? Besides the fact that you have a unique talent, you're the only person who can tolerate Reddit.
Yes, that's right, dude.
The only person who likes Reddit. Everyone else, I can't stand it.
I just love it over there. I mean, I love the arguments. I love the downvotes. It's like Twitter is like everyone's there to see. Everyone that follows you likes you. On Reddit, it's like a festival. It's like Bonnaroo. You better bring the good music because they're not there to see you. That's why I love it over there. So shout out Reddit. You can find me on Twitter at Coupe Fiasco. All my content's at Fantasy Alarm. I'm even actually going to have a little article later this week, I think on Friday, on Fast Draft. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to do a little. I'm going to do a little advice for the new Origins Gamma tournament. $25,000 prize there. Very interesting setup. So I think we got to get something up on that. So check that all out. And we actually have a best ball draft guide up right now. If you're a Fantasy Alarm member, you obviously can get it for free. Anyone else, you can grab it for $14.99, and it's all my takes. It's basically just a grid and individual rankings and 20 value picks and 20 fades just to get you going for best ball season. So that's what I got going on right now, man.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm sure I'll run into you at the expo again. Yeah. This was the 2025 fantasy football preview for the New York Jets and New England Patriots with my guest, Andrew Cooper. Again, I am Aaron St. Denis, your host. Follow me everywhere at FFMadScientist. And this has been the Fantasy Lab on Player Profiler Now. Check back next Wednesday where I have it written down as Dave Kluge of Football Guys to do Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers. I feel like that's set. I had one person who they needed me to reschedule, but I think it's the following week. So Kluge next week with Packers and Bears. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Take care and have a great night. Thanks again, Andrew.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.